Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is probably going to be a bit of a messed up deal today. Today, I am talking about this $25 tanto from Amazon by Ryujin. This is what I would call a dirt cheap practice tanto. This is not what I would refer to as your, oh shit, everything's gone to chaos and now I get to fight with my swords tanto. This is not my I am doing professional cutting practice tanto. This is I'm just starting out with using a tanto and I can't spend $100 on a tanto, which is the average running price for a nice tanto made from 1095 on Amazon right now. This is 25 bucks. Okay? This $25 tanto knife, real knife, made from 1045, whatever the fuck that is mostly plastic. Okay? This is fairly nice. I would put this on a different blade. But this is kind of like a heavy toy plastic. If you squeeze it, it flexes. The handle feels like some kind of hard plastic. There are no pinholes at all whatsoever, which means the blade in the handle, the tang of the blade in this knife is glued in and will eventually rust and decay and fall apart. And eventually, one day I will pull this knife out, go to swing it at something for practice purposes, and this knife is going to come flying out of this handle and stick somebody. Hopefully not one of my wife or kids, which is the reason why I don't bust this out when they're here. Kids are at school, wife's at work, that's the way it is. The blade has a artificial hamon. And honestly, if they did not spend the money doing the artificial hamon, they might have had the money to do cheap, real fittings, keeping it in the same price range, but it actually being proper. A bamboo pin is going to beat glue at any point in time. And just so that you can take a nice, long, hard look at it, that handle is diminutive. It is dinky. Now, I've just been whacking at some cardboard boxes with this, which is what I would consider proper fodder for a knife like this. I'm aimed at a wall. My cat is hiding under a bed, far, far away from what I'm doing. And yes, the cat's going to be pissed that I'm using his tree for this practice. But understand, this is to demonstrate that this is not a shit blade. It's just not a lot of thought went into this blade. It's razor fucking sharp. Well, maybe not razor sharp. It's near razor sharp. I've been cutting through cardboard that has a tendency to dull that. But already there is gunk right here. You know, it really depends on your practice, okay? But generally, I want to take off the handle, remove the habaki, wipe down the entire blade the proper way, okay? Clean the entire thing just by dragging an oily cloth across the entire thing, dry off the tang as much as is possible, and just lightly dry off the blade, put it all back together, and then put it in its sheath and where it goes, and let it rest after that. That's my methodology. Mostly the traditional way. I might do a video on that for anybody who has never done it before. This is not a blade I'm concerned about rusting. This is not a blade I'm concerned about chipping or bending or breaking or any of that nonsense. It's not. It's a $25 blade. It is a practice tanto. It is a cheap, crappy tanto that is going to fall apart on you, but within the purview of that thought process. For beginners, this is not a bad place to start. Got an Amazon box behind me. I'm going to take a couple of whacks at it. We'll talk about it in the comments. Yay! Okay, so we're going to start with a simple cut through kind of a strike. my tendency with shorter blades is I want to pull back that cut about part the way through so that I can turn around and get into the next cut. That's just how I operate. And as far as something short like this, I have to veer away from it. As far as the diminutive handle is concerned, it does fit rather well into my beefy hand. Okay, I don't have a small hand. My hand is rather stout, and my whole hand wraps all the way around this thing. Okay, and for me, that's a little uncomfortable, but it does fit into my hand rather well, and it's not going anywhere. And also, there's no rattling in here, so I'm not worried about that. But when you hold it at first, you have to remind yourself you're not holding a child's toy, because that's the way the handle feels. It feels like a piece of solid plastic. Okay? It doesn't feel cheap, but it still feels like plastic because that's what it is. That bothers me. Okay, this is not a Glock. This is a knife. It should be properly set up. The amount of money that was spent on the Sagyo and putting on the fake Hamon would have been enough money to put this into a cheap, proper fittings. Okay? Now, we're just going to do a nice side cut. Because here. There we go. Now we don't have that seam problem. We're going to do a side cut, cutting as all the way through as I can. We're going to do a downward cut, and then the part that I have a hard time with this short thing is a side cut. That I take issue with because I'm right here next to my house wall, and if I mar this, my wife will take this and castrate me. So we're not going to do that today. So I've been a little hesitant to swing on this side. So we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and that's probably going to be it. Just a couple of cuts to sort of see where this blade is. Okay? So, we're going to talk about this. Because of how small the handle is, I twisted it in my hand. And so whenever I first hit it, as opposed to hitting from all the way over here, I hit about here, and I did more smashing than cutting. But you can see right here, it cut. It's a shallow cut, but it's a cut, and it cut here. Let's try that one more time. It is a matter of getting used to the tool, okay? There we go. So this is, and you can measure this if you're not used to this. There are other methodologies to this. Anybody who has another methodology, please include it in the comments for those who don't know. So this is how deep the blade went, and you're not really able to, there we go. That is how deep the blade went, and you take that length on your edge and you pull it back just slightly, because that is probably the actual length that you cut. Okay, the rest is probably tear from the cut, and it cut through to here with that tip. This, and you still can't see it very well because it's not in frame. So this right here is an open throat, essentially. If you want to equate this traditional tactical type of knife, this is an open throat. Okay, let's do an overhead. That's the way I was taught. We didn't use formal terminology because we lived in Texas. So it was, this is a side cut, this is an overhead cut. There are formal terms for these, and a lot of good formal schools. And it's important that you know the history of these techniques. So whenever somebody in the comments gets to talking about this kinds of stuff, and they have those formal Japanese words, do not be afraid to ask them about a bajillion questions. Because the way I was taught didn't involve any of that shit. There was more form than tradition. Okay. I'm going to turn it over, give us a fresh space to cut from. Okay. Nice. And we're just going to overhead. Okay, cut into the box. And I have to think about how I want to do it. Do I want to go straight down and see if it will cut? Or do I want to do the proper cut? Generally, with these kinds of weapons, a proper cut is you're moving, and this is a bigger version of actually doing so. You are moving out, penetrating in, and pulling through. Okay? It is a circular motion. And so this isn't going to be a straight line, but we can try that. Now there's a metal peg right there, so I'll offset it. Let's do a straight down and see what happens. Because, I don't know. This isn't scripted. Okay. Now you can see here is a major problem and a reason why you want proper fittings. Even if it means you don't have your fake hum on, even if it means you have to go with a lower quality habaki, even if it means that you don't get the fancy sagyo, okay? And the habaki is this brass piece, and the sagyo is this cloth strap. The sheath is called a saya, and the handle is called a suka. Okay, those are the Japanese terminology. But as you can see here, because this waffles in my big hand, even though it fits well, it still moves in my hand because it's smaller than my hand. This is the kind of cut that you get straight down. Straight down, it's going to bend to one side and back to the other. And it's not a thin blade. So it's not the blade moving, it's your hand moving. Part of that is lack of technique because I haven't practiced this shit in forever. And part of that is it's moving in my hand like this as I'm cutting through. Okay? It's just not as gross as this. It's a much finer movement as it's cutting through. All right. What else do we want to do to this box? Let's think. Let's go for a little bit more refinement. This is more about precision than power. Cutting off something like this or seeing how much of this that we can cut off. So I'm just going to try to make sure it sticks out as best as possible. We're just going to put it right there where there's nothing underneath it. We're going to try to cut off that flap. Okay? As much of it as possible. The goal is to try to get as close to the box as possible. That would be precision. And that's something that you can practice with time. Okay? This is probably what's going to end up happening. And if we do this well, this box will stay right where it's supposed to be, being the counterweight to this cut through. Okay? Hike up the britches, pull down the pants, hide the beer gut. And let's see what we got. Right here. That's what we got. Let's try that again. What ended up happening is I was too far out. So most of the weight was over here and this did not counterweight properly. So we got to try that again. Just pinch the edge. Try to get it to stand just like that. Sticking out. I should probably move the camera so you could see better. Hopefully see better. It's on the back of a couch, so it's a crapshoot. So here we go. We're going to try this again. You know, closest to the box is best. Furthest away from the box is worse. And we're going to just give this another shot. Okay? That's a little better. A little better. That's a nice even cut. You could see it turning in my hand as I cut through. And that's also a little bit of meat in there. That's how come it's that big. Because instead of trying to cut straight through I'm curving off to the edge. That's why it's like that. And it's also this little hump right here. It kind of comes in, goes out a little bit, and then comes down through. This is me. This is it turning in my hand. This is me. So it's not the best. It's just not. And it's not going to be. This is a $25 tanto from Ryujin that you can find on Amazon. It is a good place to start if you're just beginning to work with these kinds of knives and swords. That's how I look at it. This is I need a rock bottom, dirt fucking cheap option to get into this. This fits that bill. Would I have rather they not do the hem-on and not do the fancy Saggio and have proper fittings? Yes. So as far as how well it works, the functionality of how well it works, how do I put this? It is a good beginner knife. Okay? It is sharp enough to be a good beginner knife. Is it shaving sharp? No. So as far as the Ryujin cheap ass tanto, okay, that you can find on Amazon, just search tanto and put your price marker, and at about around $30 it'll be one of the first things that pop up. As far as this introductory practice tanto, I give it 1 thumb up. Quality blade, will cut, get practice. 1 thumb down, not worth the money. Not with these fittings. It's just not. This was a Christmas gift from my wife. I do plan to employ this as a practice tanto. I don't care if it chips. I don't care if it flakes. I don't care if it gets toothy. I don't care if it breaks. It was $25. Okay? This is a good fundamental introduction. If I were you, I'd spend the money. Go get a $100 tanto. Get something that you could be proud of. And get something that will actually work with you for a long time. If you don't have the money, there's an option. Is it the best? Hell no. Is it going to get you what you need for the time being? Sure. This is Captain Frank Hawks. I'm doing it backwards again. Anyways, have fun. Be safe. Take care of one another. I'm Captain Frank Hawks, signing off.